Thanks a lot for coming in.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Something about this community appeals to you?
This is a wonderful place to live.
For Kelowna Now, this is Kent Mulgat. And we're joined by loyal Wooldridge, the only outsider to get a spot on this new council.
Why, thank you. Yeah, it's quite exhilarating, I must add.
Yeah, so here we were with one seat vacated by Tracy Gray.
Yes.
And obviously an electorate that was fond of the incumbents. They all topped the polls.
Yeah.
Leaving one spot. So there you were with 20 people vying for that spot. How did you pull it off?
Well, I think first of all I have to credit Kelowna, because Kelowna is very happy with the direction that our city is going under the current leadership that we have. And I think that the reason I secured that one vacant seat is because the people of Kelowna have seen value in the amount of work I did before heading into the election, attending over 20 council meetings, over 100 stakeholder action meetings. I think the community really saw the dedication that I have. I wasn't just throwing my name forward. I'm serious about this. I want to get to work.
You met with the city manager and
Absolutely.
I don't think any other candidate did that much.
At the time that I had met with Doug Gilchrist, no one else had met with him when I had had that meeting.
What else did you do? Were you pounding a lot of doors?
I met from all facets of the community, from developers to residents to not-for-profit agencies to our street community. I walked the streets with outreach workers. I toured our contentious shelters like Cornerstone. I really wanted to get a good knowledge of where everyone in the community feels we need to go, because everyone needs a voice and everyone needs to be represented.
Was there a stance on a particular issue that gave you some traction?
Well, homelessness and safety has been the number one thing, obviously, as you know, that we've been talking about. So I really dedicated the last year to understanding where we're at in terms of homelessness, and I've studied extensively the Journey Home strategy. And we heard throughout the election, some folks said that it's incomplete or we missed some steps with it. But I really believe that in the technical report, when you dive deep in, there's a lot of strategies that we can start to implement right away, so that we can see some positive changes on the street. Second to that is I spent a lot of time through the public engagement for the official community plan that we're going to be working through 2019. So I really wanted to be well versed on everything in the city, so that when we had this outcome, I'd be able to get to work right away without too much lag time.
We just put out a story recently where the future of Kelowna was sort of envisioned visually in a video, where we see the downtown suddenly populated with all these tall buildings.
Right.
And I've always been in favor of high density, but when you kind of see it gives you pause. Are you cautious at all about what our downtown is headed for?
I attended that UDI conference that video was actually promoting, and what they were showcasing through that video was, with our current zoning that we have in Kelowna, that's the potential with the amount of high rises that are currently zoned, that don't need variances to be built. So a lot of people say no more high rises, but we have to realize that could be the potential, and that's why it's so important as we redevelop the OCP that we really plan where we're putting higher buildings and how we populate infill housing, because we can still maximize the footprint of property with mid to low rise, which could be 3 to 6 story buildings versus high rises. So that video, I think, was a good depiction that even if a developer didn't need a variance, that could potentially be the downtown if we don't start planning.
So how does that strike you, that image of all those tall buildings? It puts a lot of shade on the downtown, so to speak.
Absolutely, and actually that's a great term to use, because that's my biggest concern with high rises, is the shade or the shadow that it projects onto the rest of the city. So we have to be really cognizant moving forward as to where we're placing these high rises, and making sure that everyone has a beautiful view of our mountains and our lakes, because speaking with residents, that's our most treasured asset that we have here in Kelowna.
Right. So let's dive into that issue that we were sort of tap dancing around.
Yeah.
Your sexuality is different than the mainstream, I suppose. I don't know if I've stated that properly.
I'm a member of the LGBTQ plus community. Absolutely.
So, I don't know to what extent the general public is aware of that, but to have moved in that direction, perhaps for the first time, who knows
For me, it's been a non-issue.
You didn't campaign on that whatsoever.
Not at all.
But at the same time, how do you feel about the community electing you?
I think the results show that the community want to see positive, impactful change. And regardless of who a person is, the community wants to see young, invigorated leaders, and that's why it's always been a non-issue. I represent everyone, every minority that doesn't have a voice. I've used my business for the past 12 years to do that, and I'll continue to do that on council regardless of being part of individual communities.
So electing you don't see as the community being inclusive. It was just not about that?
I don't necessarily think that people considered that when they went into the polls. I truly hope that people voted on the value that I can bring as a vocal voice on council.
Well, you show so much energy, right? You were the one who was going to the meetings and meeting with the city manager.
I gave 110%. I can honestly say on Friday
night. That's impossible. Hundreds of millions.
Well, maybe when we're looking at budgets. No, I'm kidding.
All right. Let's get off that now. Now, what about the mayor's race from your perspective?
Yes.
And I think that this inclusivity issue did play a role there.
It did absolutely play a role, and I'm ecstatic to see that Kelowna sees the value in Mayor Colin Bazaran. I've been a supporter from the start. Obviously, through the democratic process, I didn't want to influence any outcomes, but he has been a tremendous leader in the city. I'm truly grateful that he has a second term to show us what he can bring forward. He's been inclusive, he's been diverse, and he's probably one of the only mayors that most people have on access via text message. So I'm ecstatic at the outcome of our leader.
Right. But there was a point during the campaign when that inclusivity issue really resonated with you, and you did sort of take a stand.
Absolutely. I think anyone that's watched or attended the Arts Co debate can kind of see where that shift changed. And the statement that I love most from Mayor Colin Bazaran at the Arts Co Forum was that whether he's mayor or not, he will be attending parades, regardless of it being expected of him as an elected official.
Right. So here you are working with all of these incumbents. You represent all of the new blood.
I guess I am.
Do you think you stand a chance to actually influence the overall feeling of that council with just your one vote?
Absolutely. 8:30 a.m. I got an email from Mayor Bazaran CCing all councillors who's asking us to make note of what you've heard on the trail so that you can bring your voice forward when we collaborate together as a council, because the next 4 years is a new term and we need to really look at our priorities, and everyone has an equal vote, including the mayor, and I'm confident that my council colleagues will respect that.
All right, we could go on and on. We like to keep these things reasonably short. Anything else you wanted to bring up as you face your new role?
I'd just like to say thank you so much to the community for seeing value in me and what I can bring forward to council. I'm going to work my absolute hardest over the next 4 years.
110%.
110%. And be as accessible as humanly possible. I also have to thank my campaign team that made this possible, and our families. My husband Ian, he for the past 2 weeks probably saw me for about 5 minutes every night when I'd get home at 10 p.m. So for everyone that ran their campaigns, I think they can attest that it's soul wearing at the end of it. So I want to congratulate everyone that ran in this race. Everyone did a great job.
Terrific, and thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Ken.
Wooldridge, and thank you for watching Kelowna Now.